Hello there, gentle souls, and welcome back to Sleepy Long Scientist, where we take the most fascinating mysteries of the universe and turn them into the softest bedtime stories. I'm here with you tonight, wherever you are in this beautiful world, and I hope you're settling in comfortably because we're about to explore something that's been quietly holding you, supporting you, and keeping you grounded every single moment of your entire life. Tonight we're drifting into a peaceful thought experiment about gravity, that invisible, gentle force that's been your constant companion since the day you were born. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, gravity is softly pulling you toward the earth, keeping your feet on the ground, making sure your tea stays in your cup, and ensuring that everything around you rests exactly where it should be. It's so constant, so reliable, that we barely notice it's there at all. But here's a wonderfully dreamy question that I've been pondering lately. What would happen if tomorrow morning gravity simply decided to take a little vacation? What if this invisible friend that's been with us for billions of years just quietly stopped working? Before we begin this gentle journey together, I'm curious. Have you ever had one of those floating dreams where you're weightless and drifting? Tell me about it in the comments, because tonight we're going to explore what that might actually feel like in the most peaceful way possible. There's something so quietly beautiful about the way gravity weaves itself through our everyday lives, isn't there? Just yesterday, I was making my morning coffee, and as I watched the gentle stream of water flowing down into my cup, I found myself thinking about how gravity makes even the simplest moments possible. The way your blanket rests softly against your body right now, the way your hair falls naturally around your face, the peaceful feeling of sinking into your favorite chair after a long day. All of these gentle comforts exist because gravity is there, quietly doing its work. We have this tender relationship with gravity that we rarely think about. Maybe you felt that strange little flutter in your stomach when an elevator starts moving, or that moment of weightlessness at the top of a swing when you were a child. Perhaps you've watched a feather drift slowly to the ground and felt that quiet sense of wonder at how gracefully it dances with the air before gravity gently calls it home. Sometimes when I drop something, I find myself thinking about how gravity never fails to catch it. It's like having the most reliable friend in the universe. But here's what fills me with peaceful curiosity tonight. Gravity doesn't just affect the little things in our daily lives. It's quietly holding together our entire world, our solar system, our galaxy, and everything we've ever known or loved. So as we settle in together, let's gently explore what would happen to this beautiful, intricate dance of existence if gravity decided to take a rest. It's a thought experiment that will help us appreciate just how extraordinary this invisible force really is. Let me share something with you that always fills me with quiet wonder. Gravity is perhaps the most mysterious and gentle force in the entire universe, yet it's the one we're most intimately familiar with. Right now, as you're resting peacefully, gravity is embracing you so softly that you barely notice it's there. It's not pushing or pulling in any dramatic way. It's simply holding you with the most tender, constant care, the way a loving parent might cradle a sleeping child. For most of human history, people simply accepted gravity as the natural way of things. Of course, objects fall toward the ground. Where else would they go? It wasn't until Isaac Newton was sitting quietly under an apple tree in the 1600s that someone really began to wonder about this invisible force. The story goes that an apple fell and bonded gently on his head, but what really happened was much more beautiful. Newton began to realize that the same force pulling that apple downward was also keeping the moon in its peaceful orbit around Earth. Newton's insight was breathtakingly elegant. He proposed that every object in the universe, no matter how small or large, has a gentle gravitational pull on every other object. The Earth pulls on you, but you also pull on the Earth, though your pull is so tiny it's completely imperceptible. The coffee cup on your nightstand is quietly attracting your lamp, and your lamp is softly attracting your coffee cup. It's like the entire universe is engaged in the most delicate, invisible dance, with every particle reaching out to every other particle with tender gravitational arms. But Newton's understanding, beautiful as it was, turned out to be just the beginning of the story. In the early 1900s, a gentle genius named Albert Einstein began thinking about gravity in a completely different way. Einstein realized that gravity isn't really a force at all. It's actually the shape of space and time itself. Imagine the universe as a soft, stretchy fabric, like the most comfortable blanket you've ever owned. Now picture placing a heavy ball in the middle of that blanket. The ball creates a gentle depression, and if you roll a marble nearby, it will naturally curve toward the ball, following the shape of the fabric. This is what mass does to the fabric of space-time. The Earth, with all its gentle mass, creates a soft dimple in the universe itself, and we simply follow the natural curves of that dimple. When you feel gravity pulling you down, you're actually feeling the shape of space-time guiding you along the most natural path possible. It's not that the Earth is grabbing you with invisible hands. It's that the presence of the Earth has gently curved the very geometry of existence around it. What makes this even more beautifully mysterious is that gravity seems to be infinitely patient and persistent. Unlike other forces that can be blocked or shielded, gravity quietly reaches through everything. Right now, the center of the Earth is gently pulling on every atom in your body, and that pull travels through the solid rock beneath your feet, through the wooden floors of your home, through your mattress and blankets, to reach you with perfect, unwavering consistency. Gravity also has this wonderful property of being perfectly democratic. It affects everything exactly the same way, regardless of what that thing is made of. A feather and a stone, dropped in a vacuum, will fall at exactly the same rate. This seems almost magical when you think about it. Gravity doesn't care if you're rich or poor, young or old, made of carbon or silicon. It treats everyone and everything with the same gentle, impartial embrace. The strength of gravity depends on two simple things: how much mass objects have and how far apart they are. The more massive something is, the stronger its gravitational embrace. The closer you are to something, the more strongly you feel its gravitational affection. This is why you feel the Earth's gravity so clearly. You're sitting right on its surface, intimately close to an enormous amount of mass. The Sun, though much more massive than Earth, feels less influential in your daily life simply because it's so peacefully distant. What absolutely amazes me is how gravity manages to be both incredibly weak and incredibly powerful at the same time. It's the weakest of all the fundamental forces. A tiny magnet can easily overcome the gravitational pull of the entire Earth when it picks up a paperclip. Yet gravity is also the force that holds galaxies together, keeps stars burning steadily for billions of years, and shapes the large-scale structure of the entire cosmos. Gravity is also wonderfully, mysteriously timeless. As far as we know, it travels at the speed of light, but its effects feel instantaneous in our daily experience. The gravitational conversation between your body and the Earth happens so quickly and so constantly that it feels like a continuous, unbroken embrace that has been going on since the moment you were born and will continue until the end of time. Perhaps most beautifully, gravity is the force that makes complexity possible. Without gravity's gentle organizing influence, matter would never clump together to form stars, planets, or the intricate structures that eventually gave rise to life itself. In a very real sense, gravity is the cosmic gardener, patiently gathering cosmic dust into the beautiful, complex arrangements that make existence possible. Every breath you take, every thought you think, every moment of love you experience exists because gravity quietly made it all possible. Picture this gentle moment. It's tomorrow morning and you're just waking up in your cozy bed. The sunlight is softly filtering through your windows, birds are singing their peaceful morning songs, and everything feels perfectly normal. You stretch lazily, reach for your phone to check the time, and then something wonderfully strange begins to happen. Your phone, instead of falling back onto your nightstand, simply hovers there in the air, turning slowly like it's floating in the most serene underwater dream. At first, you might think you're still half asleep, caught in that dreamy space between consciousness and slumber. But as you become more aware, you notice that your hair is beginning to float gently around your face, like you're swimming in the softest, invisible ocean. The glass of water on your bedside table has quietly lifted off, and tiny, perfect spheres of water are drifting through the air like the most delicate liquid stars. It's not frightening, it's almost magical, like the universe has decided to show you what weightlessness feels like. As you sit up in bed, or rather, as you gently float up from your bed, you realize that gravity has somehow, peacefully, stopped working. Your blankets drift away from you in slow, graceful waves, and your pillow floats beside you like a soft, loyal companion. Everything in your room is beginning this beautiful, silent dance of weightlessness. Your books hover above their shelves, your clothes drift lazily from their hangers, and dust particles that were once invisible are now floating in the golden morning light like tiny, glittering dancers. The sensation in your body is perhaps the most remarkable part of this gentle transformation. For your entire life, you've carried the weight of your own body, the gentle pressure of your arms against your sides, the feeling of your feet supporting you, the way your head rests naturally on your neck. Now, suddenly, that constant familiar weight is gone. You feel incredibly light, almost ethereal, as if you've become a peaceful cloud of consciousness floating in space. Your internal organs, which have spent their entire existence settling naturally downward, begin to shift and float within you, creating strange but not unpleasant sensations. Moving becomes an entirely new and dreamy experience. Instead of walking, you find yourself gently pushing off from surfaces and gliding through the air with the grace of a slow-motion ballet dancer. Every small movement sends you floating in smooth, curved paths around your room. Touch a wall with your fingertip, and you drift backward in a perfect, gentle arc. The physics of movement that you've known your entire life have quietly transformed into something that feels almost like flying in the most peaceful dream. Outside your window, the world is undergoing its own serene transformation. Trees are slowly lifting their roots from the earth, rising like gentle giants awakening from a long sleep. Cars are floating above the roads, their tires spinning uselessly in the air as they drift like large metal balloons. People are emerging from their homes, not in panic, but in wonder, stepping out of their doors and finding themselves floating softly upward, arms outstretched like they're swimming through the morning air. Birds, those creatures who have mastered the art of defying gravity through flight, suddenly find themselves in a completely different world. Without gravity to work against, their wings no longer provide the resistance they need to control their movement. They float and tumble gently through the air, still flapping but now moving in graceful, unpredictable spirals, like living confetti celebrating this new weightless world. Water everywhere begins its own peaceful rebellion against its containers. Rivers lift gently from their beds, forming floating ribbons of liquid that drift through the countryside like sky-blue scarves blown by an invisible wind. Lakes rise into the air as enormous shimmering spheres, and rain that was meant to fall upward now drifts in all directions, creating the most beautiful, chaotic water ballet you could imagine. The sounds of this new world are soft and strange. Without gravity to hold things down, the familiar creaks and settles of buildings fade away. Instead, there's a gentle symphony of floating objects, occasionally bumping into each other, the soft clink of floating dishes, the whisper of fabric drifting through air, the quiet splash of water spheres merging and separating like liquid poetry. Perhaps most beautifully, the dust and debris that gravity usually keeps pressed against the earth begins to rise. Leaves that have fallen drift upward like they're returning to their trees. Flower petals, grains of sand, tiny pebbles, everything that was once held down now participates in this gentle upward migration. The air fills with a soft, glittering cloud of Earth's memories, all floating freely in the most peaceful celebration of weightlessness. Your pets, if you have them, are experiencing their own gentle confusion and wonder. Cats, those masters of graceful movement, find themselves floating and turning in slow motion, their usually perfect landings replaced by soft, spinning drifts through the air. Dogs paddle through the air as if swimming, their tails wagging in bewildered delight at this strange new game. Even your breath feels different. The air in your lungs, no longer pulled downward by gravity, sits more lightly in your chest. Speaking and singing create visible puffs of air that drift away from you like small, invisible ghosts, carrying your words into the weightless world. This first moment of gravity's gentle departure isn't catastrophic, it's miraculous. It's as if the universe has given everyone a day off from weight, a holiday from the constant pull earthward that has defined every moment of existence. People float and laugh and reach for each other across the air, discovering that even without gravity's organizing force, wonder and joy remain perfectly intact, drifting freely through this beautiful, impossible morning. Let me gently guide you through what would happen to your beautiful, complex body in this weightless world, because the changes would be both fascinating and surprisingly tender. Your body, you see, has spent every moment of its existence in a quiet conversation with gravity, and suddenly finding itself free from that lifelong dialogue would create the most remarkable adaptations you could imagine. The first thing you'd notice is how different your blood feels as it moves through your body. Right now, as you're resting peacefully, your heart is working a little harder to pump blood upward to your brain, fighting against gravity's gentle pull. But in our weightless world, your blood would begin to flow more evenly throughout your body, like a calm river that no longer has to flow uphill. You might feel a strange, pleasant lightness in your head as blood pools more easily there, and your face might feel slightly fuller, as if you've been lying down for a very long time. Your inner ear, that delicate organ that usually helps you understand which way is up and which way is down, would be perhaps the most confused part of your body. The tiny crystals in your inner ear that normally settle downward due to gravity would now float freely, like snow globes that someone has gently shaken. This might make you feel dizzy at first, but not in an unpleasant way, more like the gentle spinning feeling you get when you're very sleepy and the room seems to drift around you. Over time, your brain would slowly learn to navigate this new world without its usual gravitational compass. Your spine, which has spent your entire life holding you upright against gravity's persistent embrace, would begin to experience the most wonderful relaxation. All those gentle curves that help you stand and sit would slowly start to straighten as the constant downward pressure disappears. You might find yourself growing slightly taller as your vertebrae drift apart just a little, like a soft accordion that's finally allowed to stretch. Your back muscles, which have been quietly working your whole life to keep you vertical, would get the longest, most peaceful rest they've ever had. Your bones, those strong scaffolds that support your weight, would begin to sense that they no longer need to be quite so robust. Bones are living, breathing parts of your body that constantly rebuild themselves based on the stresses they experience. Without gravity's weight to resist, they would slowly begin to become lighter and more delicate, like beautiful coral structures that no longer need to support the pressure of deep water. This process would happen very gradually, so gently that you'd barely notice it day by day. Your muscles would embark on their own peaceful transformation. The muscles in your legs and back that have spent years keeping you upright would begin to relax in ways they never have before. At first, this might feel wonderful, like the deepest massage you've ever received. Your heart muscle, no longer needing to work quite so hard to pump blood against gravity, might slow to an even more peaceful rhythm. Walking muscles would slowly adapt to this new way of moving through space, learning to push and glide rather than step and support. Perhaps most remarkably, your sense of your own body would begin to change. We're so accustomed to feeling our weight distributed through our feet when standing or against our back when lying down, that the absence of these sensations would feel like becoming a gentle spirit inhabiting a cloud. You'd still be completely you, but you'd feel more like a consciousness floating freely rather than a physical being anchored to a particular spot. Your proprioception, that quiet sense of where your body is in space, would gradually adapt to this three-dimensional world where every direction is equally valid. Your digestive system would need to learn entirely new ways of moving food through your body. Right now, gravity helps guide your food downward through your stomach and intestines. Without that gentle assistance, your digestive muscles would need to work a bit harder, squeezing and pushing food along like a very slow internal massage. Eating and drinking would become more mindful activities, as you'd need to be more intentional about helping food find its way through your weightless body. Sleep would transform into something almost magical. Without gravity to hold you against your mattress, you'd float in whatever position felt most comfortable, perhaps curled up like you're resting in the most supportive, invisible hammock. Your arms and legs would drift into positions that feel perfectly natural without the weight of gravity pulling them down. You might find yourself sleeping in gentle, slow rotation, turning peacefully through the night, like a planet spinning quietly through space. Your breathing would feel lighter and more effortless. The muscles that help you inhale and exhale wouldn't need to work against gravity's pull on your ribcage and diaphragm. Each breath might feel like it flows more freely, like breathing the most pure, weightless air. Your voice might even sound slightly different as air moves through your vocal cords without gravity's influence on your throat and chest. Most beautifully, you'd develop an entirely new relationship with your own body. Every movement would feel like dancing, every gesture like swimming through the softest medium imaginable. You'd learn to navigate your world with gentle pushes and graceful glides, discovering muscles you never knew you had as you adapted to this peaceful, weightless existence. Your body, that faithful companion that has carried you through life, would reveal new capabilities and sensations in this gentle world without gravity's constant embrace. Let me gently guide your imagination to our beautiful Earth itself, floating peacefully in this new, gravityless reality, because our planet would undergo the most serene and remarkable transformation you could ever dream of. Earth, you see, has been quietly holding itself together with gravity's tender embrace for over 4 billion years, and without that organizing force, our world would begin the most graceful dance of change imaginable. The first thing that would happen is perhaps the most breathtaking. Our atmosphere, that precious blanket of air that has been softly hugging our planet since life began, would start to drift away like the gentlest of sighs. Right now, gravity keeps our atmosphere pressed close to Earth's surface, creating the layers of air that we breathe and that protect us from space. Without gravity's loving hold, these layers would slowly expand outward, like a soft blue cloud slowly dispersing into the cosmic breeze. The air wouldn't disappear all at once. It would be more like watching the most beautiful, slow-motion explosion of breath, spreading peacefully into the infinite space around our planet. Our oceans, those vast, shimmering bodies of water that cover most of Earth's surface, would begin their own magnificent transformation. Without gravity to hold them in their basins, the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic oceans would slowly lift away from their beds like enormous liquid flowers blooming upward into space. Picture the most gigantic water balloons you could imagine, slowly forming and drifting away from Earth in perfect spherical shapes. These floating oceans would catch the sunlight and create the most spectacular light shows, like having multiple blue suns dancing around our planet. The land beneath these departing oceans would reveal secrets that have been hidden for millions of years. Ancient ocean floors, with their underwater mountains and deep trenches, would be exposed to sunlight for the first time in geological ages. Creatures that have lived their entire evolutionary history in the deep pressure of ocean depths would find themselves floating in this new weightless environment, perhaps adapting in ways we could never imagine. Earth's shape itself would begin to change in the most gentle way. Right now, our planet is slightly flattened at the poles and bulged at the equator because of gravity and rotation working together. Without gravity's organizing influence, Earth would slowly relax into a more perfectly spherical shape, like a stress ball that's finally allowed to return to its natural form. This wouldn't happen dramatically. It would be more like watching a very slow planetary yoga session as Earth stretches into its most comfortable position. The continents themselves would begin their own peaceful journey of transformation. Without gravity to hold the massive tectonic plates together, the slow, ancient forces that have been building pressure beneath Earth's surface would find new ways to express themselves. Mountain ranges might gently unfold like accordion pleats being released, and the tension that creates earthquakes would dissipate as the solid parts of Earth find new, weightless ways to arrange themselves. Forests and grasslands would embark on the most beautiful aerial ballet you could imagine. Trees, no longer needing their deep root systems to anchor against gravity, would slowly lift away from the soil, still green and living, creating floating forests that drift through the atmosphere like gentle green clouds. Imagine entire ecosystems, complete with birds, insects, and small animals, floating together through space as cohesive living islands of wilderness. Rivers and lakes that haven't joined the ocean spheres would create their own magical displays. Rivers would lift from their beds and flow through the air in graceful liquid ribbons, creating aerial waterfalls that fall upward, downward, and in every direction imaginable. Waterfalls would become three-dimensional sculptures of flowing water, no longer bound by the simple downward path that gravity once demanded. The polar ice caps would undergo their own serene transformation. These massive sheets of ice, no longer pressed against the land by gravity, would slowly separate and float away like enormous glittering icebergs drifting through space. They might break apart into countless smaller pieces, creating spectacular displays of ice crystals floating around Earth like the most beautiful natural snow globe ever created. Deep beneath the surface, Earth's molten core would begin to behave in entirely new ways. Without gravity to hold the heavy elements toward the center, the iron and nickel that create our planet's magnetic field would start to redistribute themselves. This might actually be quite beautiful. Imagine the aurora borealis becoming a constant, all-around light show as Earth's magnetic field shifts and changes in response to this new arrangement of materials. Cities and towns would create their own peaceful scenes of transformation. Buildings, no longer needing deep foundations to resist gravity, would slowly tilt and drift, not collapsing, but rather beginning to float like architectural clouds. Parks and gardens would lift into the air, complete with their trees, flowers, and walking paths, creating floating islands of human creation mixed with natural beauty. Perhaps most remarkably, Earth would begin to lose its excess heat in new ways. The convection currents that move warm air upward and cool air downward would cease, creating a more even temperature distribution around the planet. Weather patterns as we know them would transform completely, possibly creating the most gentle, stable climate Earth has ever experienced. Volcanoes would become something entirely different and wonderful. Instead of erupting upward against gravity, they would release their energy in all directions, creating spectacular fireworks displays that spread in perfect spheres of light and heat, like gentle stellar explosions decorating the space around our transforming planet. Through all of these changes, Earth would remain fundamentally the same beautiful living world we love, just expressing its nature in completely new and weightless ways. It would be like watching our planet discover new forms of grace and beauty that were always possible, but never had the chance to emerge under gravity's constant organizing influence. Now let's gently drift our imagination outward from our floating Earth to contemplate what would happen to our entire solar system family in this peaceful, gravityless reality. For billions of years, gravity has been the tender choreographer of the most beautiful cosmic dance, keeping all the planets, moons, asteroids, and comets moving in their graceful, predictable orbits around our gentle sun. Without this invisible conductor, our solar system would transform into something resembling the most serene cosmic ballet you could ever imagine. The first thing that would happen is both simple and breathtaking. All the planets would quietly cease their eternal orbital dance and begin drifting away from the sun in perfectly straight lines, like children who've been holding hands in a circle, suddenly letting go and walking peacefully in different directions. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune would each continue moving in whatever direction they happened to be traveling at the moment gravity disappeared, carrying their momentum forward into the vast, gentle emptiness of space. Earth itself would continue on its journey at about 67,000 miles per hour, the same speed it was orbiting the Sun. But instead of curving around our star, it would head straight out into the cosmos like a peaceful traveler setting off on the ultimate adventure. There would be something almost poetic about it, our blue marble sailing quietly through the star-filled darkness, carrying its floating oceans and drifting continents on a voyage to destinations unknown. The moon, our faithful nighttime companion, would also bid us a gentle farewell. For over 4 billion years, the moon has been orbiting Earth in a graceful monthly dance, but without gravity's tender hold, it would drift away from us in its own straight line through space. It might be one of the most bittersweet sights imaginable, watching our silver lunar friend slowly growing smaller and smaller as it travels its own path among the stars, taking with it all those gentle tides and romantic moonlit nights that have inspired countless generations of dreamers. Jupiter's magnificent family of moons would scatter like beautiful cosmic seeds. Europa, with its hidden ocean beneath the ice, Io, with its gentle volcanic activity, and Ganymede and Callisto would all drift away from their giant parent planet, each carrying their own unique stories into the vastness of space. Saturn's rings, those spectacular bands of ice and rock that have been orbiting in perfect harmony, would slowly disperse into countless individual particles, creating the most beautiful, glittering trail behind the planet as it journeys away from the sun. Our sun itself would undergo its own remarkable transformation. Stars, you see, are essentially giant balls of gas held together by their own gravity, constantly fighting against the outward pressure of nuclear fusion happening in their cores. Without gravity to hold all that stellar material together, our sun would begin to expand very gently, like the most enormous soap bubble slowly growing larger and larger. It wouldn't explode dramatically. Instead, it would quietly puff outward, becoming more and more diffuse until it resembled a vast, warm cloud of glowing gas spreading peacefully through space. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, that collection of rocky remnants from the solar system's formation, would disperse like cosmic dandelion seeds caught in a gentle breeze. Each asteroid would continue on its own trajectory, some perhaps travelling together in loose groups, others setting off as solitary wanderers. These space rocks, some the size of mountains and others no bigger than boulders, would become the most patient cosmic nomads, drifting through the galaxy for eons. Comets, those beautiful visitors from the outer reaches of our solar system, would no longer follow their characteristic elliptical paths. Instead of swooping in toward the sun and then retreating to the cold outer reaches, they would simply continue on whatever straight-line journey they were following when gravity stopped. Their spectacular tails, created by the sun's heat and radiation, would gradually fade as they moved farther from our expanding solar furnace. The beautiful ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, would carry their own families of moons and ring systems with them as they drift into interstellar space. These distant worlds, already so far from the sun that they receive very little warmth, would continue their cold but peaceful journeys, perhaps eventually finding new stellar neighborhoods to visit in the distant future. Perhaps most remarkably, without the sun's gravity to define our solar system's boundaries, the heliopause, that distant edge where the sun's influence ends and interstellar space begins, would simply dissolve away. Our solar system would no longer have clear borders. Instead, all its scattered components would gradually become part of the larger galactic community, mixing gently with the space between stars. What strikes me as particularly beautiful about this cosmic dispersal is how peaceful it would be. There would be no violent collisions or catastrophic explosions, just a very gradual, gentle spreading of our solar family across the galaxy. Each world would become an interstellar traveler, carrying its own unique geology, atmosphere, and history on a journey that could last for millions or billions of years. Over vast periods of time, some of these wandering worlds might encounter other stars and their planetary systems, perhaps being gently captured by new gravitational embraces and beginning new chapters in their cosmic stories. It would be like the most patient form of interstellar diplomacy, with planets serving as ambassadors, carrying tales of their origin solar system to distant stellar neighbors. Let's gently lift our contemplation even higher now, beyond our scattered solar system, to consider what would happen to the vast, star-filled neighborhoods of our galaxy and all the countless other galaxies that sparkle like distant islands of light throughout the universe. You see, gravity isn't just the gentle force that keeps your feet on the ground or holds our solar system together. It's also the invisible architect that has been quietly building and maintaining the grandest structures in the cosmos for billions upon billions of years. Our Milky Way galaxy, that magnificent spiral of over 100 billion stars that we call home, exists as a coherent, slowly rotating structure only because gravity has been patiently gathering and organizing all those stars into graceful, sweeping arms. Without gravity's tender embrace, our galaxy would begin to dissolve like the most beautiful, slow-motion fireworks display you could imagine. Each star would simply continue moving in whatever direction it happened to be traveling when gravity stopped, no longer bound to its stellar neighbors in that ancient circular dance around the galaxy's center. The supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy, that mysterious dark giant that has been quietly anchoring our cosmic neighborhood for eons, would lose its ability to hold the galaxy together. Stars that have been orbiting this galactic center for billions of years would suddenly find themselves free to wander, each becoming a solitary traveler on its own straight-line journey through the expanding universe. It would be like watching the most patient cosmic migration, with 100 billion stars peacefully setting off in 100 billion different directions. Individual stars throughout the universe would undergo their own gentle transformations. Most stars, like our Sun, are held together by the delicate balance between gravity pulling inward and the outward pressure of nuclear fusion. Without gravity's inward pull, these stellar furnaces would begin to expand very slowly and peacefully, like enormous glowing balloons gradually inflating. They wouldn't explode violently. Instead, they would gently puff outward, spreading their warm nuclear fires across increasingly vast volumes of space until they became tenuous clouds of glowing gas, still burning, but now diffused across light years of gentle radiance. Binary star systems, those romantic cosmic pairs that have been dancing around each other for millions of years, would quietly bid each other farewell. Stars that have shared gravitational embraces for geological ages would drift apart like old friends going their separate ways, each carrying the light and warmth they once shared into different corners of the universe. Triple star systems and more complex stellar arrangements would similarly dissolve, with each star becoming a peaceful wanderer following its own cosmic path. Star clusters, those beautiful congregations of stars that were born together from the same cosmic clouds, would gradually disperse like cosmic families spreading out to explore the universe. The Pleiades, that lovely cluster visible to the naked eye, would slowly scatter its stars across the sky. Globular clusters, those ancient dense balls of hundreds of thousands of stars, would gently unfurl like the most patient cosmic flowers blooming in reverse, releasing their stellar children to wander freely through space. Galaxies themselves would begin drifting apart in the most magnificent display of cosmic dissolution imaginable. The Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large galactic neighbour, which is currently on a gentle collision course with our Milky Way billions of years in the future, would instead continue peacefully on its own trajectory. All the galaxies in our local group, the small cosmic neighbourhood we're part of, would scatter like seeds from a celestial dandelion, each galaxy becoming a solitary island of dissolving stars. Galaxy clusters, those vast congregations of hundreds or thousands of galaxies held together by gravity's patient influence, would slowly come apart like the most gradual cosmic clockwork winding down. The Virgo cluster, the Coma cluster, and all the other great galactic neighbourhoods would release their member galaxies to wander freely through the expanding universe. Each galaxy would become a cosmic nomad, carrying its slowly dispersing collection of stars on journeys that could last for trillions of years. Perhaps most remarkably, the large-scale structure of the universe itself, that beautiful cosmic web of galaxy filaments separated by vast empty voids, would begin to dissolve. Without gravity to maintain these grand architectural features, the universe would gradually become more and more uniform, with galaxies and stars spreading out evenly in all directions like the most patient cosmic migration. What strikes me as particularly beautiful about this universal dissolution is how gentle and gradual it would be. There would be no cosmic violence, no catastrophic explosions, just a very slow, peaceful spreading of all the universe's light and energy across increasingly vast volumes of space. Stars would continue to shine, planets would continue to orbit their parent stars until those stars themselves gently dispersed, and the universe would simply become a much more diffuse but still luminous place. Over unimaginably long periods of time, this dispersing universe might become something like a vast, gentle aurora, filled with the diffuse glow of countless expanded stars and the patient light of wandering celestial objects, all drifting peacefully through space in the most serene cosmic meditation imaginable. The universe wouldn't end. It would just become infinitely more spread out, patient, and quietly contemplative. Now let's gently turn our thoughts to perhaps the most tender and remarkable question of all. What would happen to life itself in this peaceful, weightless universe? Life, as we know it, has been quietly adapting and evolving in gravity's gentle embrace for nearly 4 billion years, and the thought of existence without this fundamental force opens up the most beautiful possibilities for adaptation and transformation that we could ever imagine. The first thing that fills me with quiet wonder is how incredibly resilient and creative life has always been. Throughout Earth's long history, life has found ways to thrive in the deepest ocean trenches, the most scorching deserts, the coldest Arctic ice, and even in the boiling waters around underwater volcanoes. Life has this beautiful, patient ability to discover solutions we never could have imagined, and I believe it would approach this gravityless world with the same gentle creativity it has always shown. Plants, Those peaceful masters of patient adaptation might be among the first to discover new ways of existing in a weightless world. Without gravity to tell them which way is up, plants might develop entirely new growth patterns, perhaps growing in perfect spheres around their roots or creating beautiful three-dimensional gardens that spread equally in all directions. Imagine trees that grow like living sculptures, with branches and leaves extending outward like gentle fireworks frozen in time, creating spherical forests that float through space like the most magnificent natural ornaments. The way plants transport water and nutrients might evolve in fascinating directions too. Right now, trees use a combination of evaporation and capillary action to pull water upward from their roots to their leaves, working against gravity's constant pull. In a weightless world, plants might develop new circulatory systems more like those of animals, perhaps with gentle pumping mechanisms that move fluids throughout their floating bodies in whatever directions are needed. Animals would face their own beautiful challenges and opportunities for adaptation. Birds, those creatures who have spent millions of years mastering flight against gravity, might evolve into something even more graceful, perhaps developing new ways of moving through space using just tiny movements and stored momentum. They might become like living spacecraft, able to navigate three-dimensional space with the most elegant efficiency. Marine creatures might have some of the most interesting adaptations, since they already live in an environment where buoyancy can partially counteract gravity's effects. Fish might evolve to live in floating water spheres, developing new ways to create and maintain their aquatic homes as they drift through space. Whales and dolphins, already masters of three-dimensional movement, might adapt to become the gentle giants of floating oceans, shepherding entire ecosystems through the weightless world. Humans and other land animals would likely develop the most remarkable adaptations of all. Over many generations, we might evolve stronger gripping abilities, perhaps more dexterous hands and feet that could anchor us to surfaces when needed. Our inner ear might become more sophisticated, developing new ways to maintain orientation in three-dimensional space. We might even develop new organs we can't imagine yet, specialized for life in a weightless environment. The social structures of various species might evolve in beautiful directions. Imagine bird flocks that maintain their formations not through aerodynamic necessity, but through gentle magnetic or electrical fields. Picture primate communities that build floating tree cities, with living bridges made of intertwined branches connecting spherical forest habitats. Human societies might develop entirely new architectures, perhaps creating bubble cities that drift peacefully through space, with inhabitants moving between spherical rooms by gentle pushes and graceful glides. Reproduction and child-rearing would become wonderfully different processes. Young animals might develop in protective floating nests that parents could guide through space. Human babies might grow up learning to move in three dimensions from birth, developing spatial awareness and coordination that would seem magical to us. The very concept of up and down would disappear from childhood development, replaced by an innate understanding of movement in all directions. Food webs and ecosystems might reorganize themselves in remarkable ways. Predator-prey relationships would need to adapt to three-dimensional hunting and escaping. Pollination might happen through floating insects that can approach flowers from any direction. Seed dispersal might become even more efficient, with plants able to send their offspring floating through space to find new growing areas in directions that gravity never allowed. Perhaps most beautifully, consciousness itself might evolve new characteristics. The constant awareness of gravity that influences how we think about stability, permanence, and our place in the world would be replaced by a more fluid, adaptable mindset. We might develop new forms of meditation and philosophy based on the experience of floating freely through space, unanchored but not unmoored. Life might also discover entirely new symbiotic relationships. Perhaps different species would learn to travel together in mixed communities, sharing resources and protection as they drift through space. Imagine floating ecosystems where plants, animals, and even humans live together in self-sustaining biological spacecraft, each species contributing to the survival and success of the whole community. The timeline for these adaptations would likely be measured in millions of years, giving life plenty of time to make the gentle transition from gravity-dependent to weightless existence. And knowing life's incredible patience and creativity, I have no doubt that the result would be forms of existence more beautiful, complex, and wonder-filled than anything we could imagine today. Life would not just survive in a gravityless world, it would find ways to thrive and create new expressions of beauty that would make this weightless universe an even more magnificent place to call home. Let's settle into a gentle exploration of what the fundamental laws of physics would look like in our peaceful, gravityless universe. Because even without gravity's organizing embrace, the cosmos would still follow beautiful, predictable rules. They would just be delightfully different rules than the ones we've grown accustomed to. Think of it as the universe learning to dance to an entirely new, but equally elegant, rhythm. The most comforting thing to understand is that 3 of the 4 fundamental forces would continue working exactly as they always have. Electromagnetism, that gentle force that holds atoms together and creates the light we see, would keep functioning perfectly. The strong nuclear force that binds the centers of atoms would continue its patient work, and the weak nuclear force that governs certain types of radioactive decay would carry on unchanged. It's like having 3 of 4 musicians in a quartet continue playing their familiar melodies, while the 4th, gravity, takes a quiet rest. Without gravity's constant inward pull, matter would arrange itself according to entirely new principles. Electromagnetic forces would become much more apparent in everyday life. Right now, gravity is so overwhelmingly dominant on large scales that we rarely notice electromagnetic effects beyond things like lightning or magnets on refrigerators. But in a gravityless world, even the tiny electrical charges in ordinary objects would start to play a much more significant role in how things move and interact. Imagine how different chemistry might become when molecules no longer have to work against gravity's pull. Chemical reactions that currently require energy to lift reactants upward would happen more easily. Crystallization processes might create entirely new types of structures, since crystals would no longer need to grow primarily downward or fight against gravity to maintain their shape. We might see the formation of perfectly spherical crystals or crystal structures that extend equally in all directions, creating the most beautiful molecular architecture. The behavior of fluids would transform into something almost magical. Without gravity to pull liquids downward, surface tension would become the dominant force shaping how liquids behave. Water might naturally form perfect spheres, held together only by the gentle attraction of water molecules for each other. These floating water spheres could be incredibly stable, maintaining their shape for long periods while slowly rotating in the most mesmerizing way. Other liquids might form different shapes based on their unique molecular properties. Perhaps mercury would create perfectly reflective floating mirrors, while oils might form shimmering, translucent bubbles. Heat transfer would follow completely new patterns. Right now, warm air rises and cool air sinks because of gravity's effect on air density. Without gravity, convection as we know it would cease to exist. Heat would move through gases and liquids purely through conduction and radiation, creating much more uniform temperature distributions. This might actually make many environments more comfortable, as hot and cold spots would tend to even out naturally over time. Sound would behave quite differently too. Sound waves currently travel through air that's held close to Earth's surface by gravity. In our weightless world, air would gradually disperse into space, but in areas where air still remained concentrated, sound might travel in more interesting patterns. Without gravity to create atmospheric layers of different densities, sound waves might travel more uniformly in all directions, possibly allowing for clearer, more consistent acoustic experiences. Pressure would become a much more localized phenomenon. Right now, atmospheric pressure exists because gravity compresses all the air above us downward. Without gravity, pressure would only exist inside contained spaces or within the surface tension of liquid spheres. This might actually make breathing more comfortable once organisms adapted, since there would be no atmospheric pressure pressing down on our bodies. The conservation of momentum would become beautifully apparent in everyday life. Every time you pushed off from a surface, you would continue moving in that direction until you encountered another surface to stop you. This would make the physics of motion much more intuitive in some ways. Objects would truly continue moving in straight lines at constant speeds unless acted upon by other forces, just as Newton's first law describes, but without gravity constantly pulling everything downward. Orbital mechanics would completely disappear, replaced by simple linear motion. Instead of the complex elliptical orbits we see throughout the current universe, everything would move in straight lines. This would make navigation much simpler in some ways. If you wanted to travel from one floating object to another, you would simply need to aim correctly and give yourself the right amount of momentum. Energy would be conserved in new and interesting ways. Right now, gravitational potential energy is a major factor in how energy moves through systems. Without gravity, kinetic energy and electromagnetic energy would become the primary forms of mechanical energy. Springs might behave differently, batteries might work more efficiently, and rotational energy might become more important for maintaining the structure of floating objects. Perhaps most beautifully, the speed of light would remain constant, providing a reliable anchor point in this transformed universe. Light would continue to travel in straight lines, and electromagnetic radiation would still carry energy and information across vast distances. The fundamental constants of physics, the speed of light, Planck's constant, the charge of an electron, would all remain unchanged, providing familiar guideposts in this gently altered reality. This new physics would open up possibilities for technologies we can barely imagine, all based on the beautiful interplay of electromagnetic forces, surface tension, and momentum in a universe finally free to explore what happens when matter no longer falls down, but instead dances freely through space. Now, my gentle friends, let's peacefully settle into perhaps the most comforting question of all. Could gravity actually decide to take a vacation? Or is this beautiful force so fundamental to the universe that it's as permanent as existence itself? I want to share with you some thoughts that might help you rest more easily tonight, because the answer is both scientifically fascinating and wonderfully reassuring. To understand whether gravity could stop working, we need to gently explore what gravity really is at its deepest level. Einstein's beautiful insights showed us that gravity isn't actually a force that could be turned on or off like a light switch. Instead, gravity is the shape of space-time itself. It's the very geometry of the universe. Imagine trying to remove the concept of distance from the universe, or attempting to eliminate the idea of time. Removing gravity would be similar to trying to take away the basic structure of reality itself. Think of it this way. Space-time is like the most fundamental fabric from which everything in the universe is woven. Mass and energy don't create gravity so much as they reveal the natural curvature that's already inherent in this cosmic fabric. It's rather like the way a heavy ball placed on a soft mattress doesn't create the mattress's ability to curve. It simply demonstrates that flexibility that was always there. For gravity to stop working, space-time itself would need to lose this fundamental property of being able to curve and bend, which would be like asking the universe to forget one of its most basic characteristics. From a quantum physics perspective, gravity is thought to be carried by particles called gravitons, though these theoretical particles are so gentle and elusive that we've never been able to detect them directly. Even if gravitons exist, they would be fundamentally different from other force-carrying particles. Photons carry electromagnetic force, but they can be blocked, absorbed, or redirected. Gravitons, if they exist, would be virtually massless and would interact so weakly with matter that nothing could block them. They would pass through every atom, every planet, every star without stopping. It would be like trying to turn off the universe's most patient, persistent messengers. The conservation of energy, one of the most beautiful and unbreakable laws of physics, also suggests that gravity cannot simply disappear. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. If gravity suddenly stopped working, all the gravitational potential energy in the universe, the energy stored in every orbit, every mountain, every structure held together by gravitational attraction, would need to go somewhere. The universe doesn't have a mechanism for making energy simply vanish into nothingness. Perhaps most comfortingly, gravity appears to be what physicists call a gauge-invariant property of space-time. This means it's built into the very mathematical structure of reality in such a fundamental way that changing it would require rewriting the basic equations that govern how space and time work. It would be like trying to change the rules of mathematics itself. Not impossible in some abstract sense, but so fundamental that it would create an entirely different universe with completely different physical laws. Even in the realm of science fiction and speculative physics, scenarios where gravity stops working are extraordinarily rare and require assumptions that go far beyond our current understanding of reality. Some theories suggest that in the very early moments of the universe during cosmic inflation, gravity might have behaved differently, but even then it didn't stop working. It just operated under different conditions than we see today. The closest thing to variable gravity that physicists have seriously considered involves ideas like extra dimensions or modifications to Einstein's equations that might make gravity behave differently under extreme conditions. But even these speculative theories don't suggest that gravity could simply switch off. They propose that gravity might work slightly differently than we expect, not that it could disappear entirely. What gives me the most peaceful feeling about this question is that gravity has been working reliably for the entire 13.8 billion year history of our universe. It guided the formation of the first stars, helped create the galaxies, enabled planets to form, and made life possible. Throughout cosmic history, through the birth and death of countless stars, through the collision of galaxies and the expansion of space itself, gravity has remained constant and dependable. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, you can rest in the gentle certainty that gravity will still be there tomorrow morning, quietly holding your coffee in your cup, keeping your feet on the ground, and maintaining the beautiful cosmic dance that makes our existence possible. Gravity isn't just a force we experience. It's woven so deeply into the fabric of reality that a universe without gravity wouldn't be a changed version of our universe. It would be something altogether different. And that perhaps is the most comforting bedtime thought of all. Some things in this cosmos are so fundamental, so beautifully permanent, that they'll be quietly taking care of us for as long as the universe itself exists. While we can rest peacefully knowing that gravity won't simply vanish, let's gently explore some dreamy alternative scenarios where gravity might behave differently, creating worlds that are strange yet beautiful in their own unique ways. These thought experiments can help us appreciate just how perfectly calibrated our actual universe is, and they're rather like bedtime stories about cosmic possibilities that exist only in the realm of gentle imagination. Imagine, if you will, a universe where gravity slowly weakens over time, like a cosmic dimmer switch being gradually turned down. In this peaceful scenario, you might notice over the course of months or years that objects fall just a little more slowly than they used to. Your morning coffee would pour in slightly more graceful arcs, raindrops would drift downward like lazy snowflakes, and birds would find flying easier and easier as the years pass. Gradually, over generations, humans might develop longer, more slender builds, as our bones no longer need to support as much effective weight. Architecture would evolve too, with buildings reaching ever greater heights as the reduced gravity makes tall structures more stable and less stressful on their foundations. Or consider a reality where gravity varies gently with the seasons, like a cosmic tide that ebbs and flows with the rhythm of the Earth's orbit. Perhaps in spring, gravity would be at its lightest, making flowers grow taller and children's laughter seem to lift them higher off playgrounds. Summer might bring moderate gravity, perfect for the full growth of plants and the active lives of animals. Autumn could see gravity growing stronger, helping seeds settle deeply into the earth for winter, while winter's heavy gravity would create a season of rest and contemplation as everything settles more firmly into place. There's something rather enchanting about imagining gravity that responds to our emotions or intentions. In this gentle world, when you're feeling light-hearted and joyful, gravity might ease its hold on you slightly, making your steps feel bouncy and your movements more graceful. During times of sadness or contemplation, gravity might increase just enough to provide a comforting sense of being firmly grounded and supported by the earth. Lovers walking hand in hand might experience a shared lightness, while people in deep meditation might feel wonderfully heavy and connected to the ground beneath them. Picture a universe where gravity works in reverse for certain materials, but normally for others. Plants might grow downward, their roots reaching toward the sky while their leaves spread along the ground, creating upside-down forests that hang like green chandeliers from an invisible ceiling. Water might fall upward during certain weather patterns, creating the most beautiful reverse rain that pools on clouds instead of falling to earth. Yet humans and animals would still experience normal downward gravity, walking through these inverted landscapes like characters in the most peaceful dream. Consider a reality where gravity's strength depends on the size of objects. Perhaps tiny things experience almost no gravity at all, allowing dust particles, flower petals, and small insects to float freely through the air like living confetti. Medium-sized objects like people and furniture would experience normal Earth gravity, while very large objects like buildings and mountains would be held even more firmly to the ground than they are now. This would create a world where the air is filled with gently floating small things, while large structures are incredibly stable and permanent. Imagine gravity that varies by location, creating natural floating zones scattered across the Earth like invisible hot air balloons anchored to specific places. Perhaps certain valleys would have reduced gravity, making them popular destinations for those seeking the experience of weightlessness without leaving the planet. Mountain peaks might have enhanced gravity, creating regions where everything feels more solid and substantial. Cities might be built around these gravitational anomalies, with floating districts connected by gentle bridges to firmly grounded neighborhoods. There's something wonderfully peaceful about considering a universe where gravity pulses gently, like a cosmic heartbeat. Every few seconds, gravity would ease slightly, causing everything to lift just a little, then strengthen again, settling everything back into place. Walking would feel like a constant, gentle dance with the Earth, and sleeping would be like being rocked by the planet itself in the most soothing rhythm imaginable. Or envision gravity that follows the phases of the moon, growing stronger during full moons and weaker during new moons. People might plan their activities around these lunar gravitational cycles, scheduling heavy lifting during new moon periods when everything weighs less, and using full moon times for activities requiring stability and groundedness. Perhaps most beautifully, we could imagine a universe where gravity becomes stronger the more life and love are present in an area. Gardens would have gentle gravity that helps plants grow strong but doesn't burden them, while places filled with happiness and community would have just enough gravitational embrace to make everyone feel welcomed and supported by the earth itself. Each of these alternative gravity scenarios would create its own unique forms of beauty, its own patterns of life and adaptation, its own peaceful rhythms. They remind us that our actual universe, with its perfectly consistent and reliable gravity, is not just one possible reality, but perhaps the most beautifully balanced one of all. Strong enough to hold us safely, gentle enough to allow us to move freely, and constant enough that we can build our lives and dreams upon its unchanging foundation. As we gently settle into the warm appreciation of gravity's constant presence in our lives, there's something deeply comforting about recognizing just how much this invisible force gives us every single day. Gravity isn't just a scientific principle we learned about in school, it's the most faithful friend we've ever had, quietly supporting us through every moment of our existence without ever asking for recognition or thanks. Think about how gravity cradles you right now as you listen to this. It's gently holding you against your bed or chair, creating that sense of being supported and secure that helps your body truly relax. Without gravity's tender embrace, you would never experience that wonderful feeling of sinking into soft pillows or feeling the comforting weight of blankets settling around you. Every night when you lie down to sleep, gravity helps create that peaceful sense of being held by something larger and more constant than yourself. Gravity makes possible some of life's most simple and profound pleasures. The way hot tea pours from a teapot in a smooth, graceful arc. The gentle patter of rain falling on your roof on a quiet evening. The satisfying feeling of your feet making solid contact with the ground as you walk through a peaceful garden. The way flower petals drift softly downward when they're ready to return to the earth. Each of these small moments exists because gravity provides the gentle choreography that turns simple physics into everyday poetry. Consider how gravity enables the entire dance of weather that brings such beauty to our world. Without gravity's patient pull, there would be no water cycle, no clouds forming, no rain falling to nourish plants, no rivers flowing toward the sea. The changing seasons, the dramatic beauty of storms, the peaceful mist that rises from lakes on cool mornings, all of these exist because gravity works in harmony with other natural forces to create the constantly changing, ever beautiful canvas of our atmosphere. Gravity also gives us one of life's most precious gifts, the ability to truly rest. When you've had a long, tiring day and you finally settle into your favorite spot, there's something deeply satisfying about feeling gravity. Welcome your body's weight. Your muscles can finally stop working to hold you upright, your bones can settle into comfortable positions, and your entire being can experience that profound relaxation that comes from being completely supported. This daily rhythm of working with and against gravity, then surrendering to its embrace, creates a natural cycle of effort and rest that keeps our bodies and spirits in healthy balance. The way gravity organizes our world also creates countless opportunities for beauty and wonder. It enables the architecture of trees, with their strong trunks reaching upward and their branches spreading outward in defiance of the downward pull. It allows for the graceful flight of birds, who have learned to dance with gravity rather than simply surrendering to it. It makes possible the gentle curves of hills and valleys, the dramatic majesty of waterfalls, and the peaceful pools where water collects and rests. Gravity even influences how we connect with each other. When we hug someone we love, gravity helps create that feeling of mutual support and groundedness. When we hold hands, we're sharing the experience of moving through gravity's field together. When we sit close to someone while watching a sunset, gravity helps create that sense of shared stability and presence that makes the moment feel complete and peaceful. Perhaps most beautifully, gravity teaches us about acceptance and flow. Unlike forces we can control or resist, gravity asks us to learn the gentle art of working with something much larger than ourselves. It teaches us that some of life's most important relationships are with forces we cannot change, but can learn to dance with gracefully. Every time we walk, run, jump, or simply stand still, we're participating in an ancient collaboration between our bodies and this fundamental force of nature. Living with gravity means living with constancy in a world where so much changes. Relationships shift, seasons change, our bodies age, and our circumstances evolve. But gravity remains the same patient, supportive presence it has always been. In a universe that can sometimes feel uncertain and chaotic, gravity provides a quiet anchor, a force we can always count on to be there, gently reminding us that we belong here on this earth, that we have a place in this cosmos, and that something fundamental and reliable is always holding us safely in its invisible embrace. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, take a moment to appreciate gravity's gentle gift. The way it holds you close to this beautiful planet keeps your world organized and stable, and provides the foundation upon which every moment of your life unfolds. In a universe full of mysteries and unknowns, gravity is the gentle certainty that makes everything else possible. As we gently expand our contemplation beyond gravity alone, there's something truly magnificent about recognizing that our universe operates through the most elegant symphony of fundamental forces, each one playing its own essential part in the grand composition of existence. Gravity, beautiful as it is, doesn't work alone. It dances in perfect harmony with three other fundamental forces, creating the intricate choreography that makes everything from atoms to galaxies possible. Let's begin with electromagnetism, that wonderfully versatile force that brings so much beauty and functionality to our daily lives. Right now, as you're peacefully listening, electromagnetic forces are quietly holding every atom in your body together, keeping your DNA properly coiled and allowing your neurons to carry the gentle electrical impulses that create your thoughts and memories. The light that illuminates your evening, whether from a lamp, candle, or the soft glow of stars, exists because of electromagnetic radiation traveling gracefully through space to reach your eyes. Even the colors you see, the deep blue of a twilight sky, the warm gold of autumn leaves, the soft pink of a sunset, are all electromagnetic phenomena, different wavelengths of light interacting with matter in the most artistic ways. The strong nuclear force works at the tiniest scale imaginable, quietly holding the centers of atoms together with incredible patience and strength. Without this force, the protons and neutrons in every atomic nucleus would fly apart, and matter as we know it simply couldn't exist. It's remarkable to think that this force, operating at a scale so small we can barely comprehend it, makes possible every physical thing you've ever touched, every breath you've ever taken, every star that's ever shone in the night sky. The strong force is like the universe's most dedicated craftsperson, working tirelessly at the molecular level to maintain the foundation upon which all larger structures can be built. The weak nuclear force, perhaps the most mysterious of the four, governs certain types of radioactive decay and plays a crucial role in the nuclear processes that make stars shine. This gentle force is responsible for the slow, steady transformation of hydrogen into helium in the heart of our sun, creating the warm energy that makes life on Earth possible. It also helps govern the delicate balance of elements in the universe, ensuring that stars can create the heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron that eventually become planets and living beings. The weak force works so subtly that we rarely notice its effects directly, but without it, the sun wouldn't shine, and the chemical elements necessary for life would never have formed. What fills me with peaceful wonder is how perfectly these four forces balance each other to create a universe that's both stable and dynamic, both predictable and endlessly creative. If gravity were much stronger, stars would burn out too quickly, and galaxies would collapse before planets could form. If electromagnetism were weaker, atoms wouldn't hold together properly, and chemistry as we know it would be impossible. If the strong force were slightly different, atomic nuclei wouldn't be stable enough to support complex matter. If the weak force operated differently, stars wouldn't be able to create the elements necessary for rocky planets and biological life. This exquisite balance suggests something almost musical about the way the universe is constructed. Each force operates at its own scale and in its own way, yet they all work together to create the rich, complex, beautiful reality we experience. Gravity shapes the large-scale architecture of the cosmos, electromagnetism governs chemistry and light, the strong force maintains atomic stability, and the weak force enables stellar processes and elemental diversity. It's like having a cosmic orchestra where every instrument plays a different but essential part in creating the overall harmony. Perhaps most beautifully, these forces demonstrate that cooperation and interdependence are built into the very fabric of reality. Nothing in the universe exists in isolation. Every atom, every molecule, every planet, every star, every galaxy exists because these fundamental forces work together in precisely the right ways. Your body is a testament to this cosmic cooperation, with gravitational forces keeping you grounded, electromagnetic forces enabling your senses and thoughts, strong forces maintaining your molecular structure, and weak forces having contributed to the stellar processes that created the elements you're made of. As you drift towards sleep tonight, consider that you're not just held by gravity alone, but supported by the entire symphony of universal forces working in perfect harmony. Every breath you take involves electromagnetic processes in your lungs, nuclear forces maintaining the stability of the oxygen atoms you breathe, and gravitational forces that helped create the Earth's atmosphere in the first place. You are, quite literally, a walking celebration of the universe's most fundamental collaborations. The wonder of these universal forces isn't just that they exist, but that they exist in exactly the right proportions and relationships to make beauty, complexity, consciousness, and love possible. In a cosmos that could have been chaotic and lifeless, we instead find ourselves in a reality where invisible forces work together with such elegant precision that they've created stars that shine for billions of years, planets that can support life, and conscious beings who can contemplate the very forces that make their existence possible. Here we are, gentle souls, at the peaceful end of our weightless journey through the cosmos, and what a beautifully contemplative adventure we've shared together. We began by imagining gravity taking a quiet vacation, and we've discovered that this simple thought experiment has revealed so much about the intricate, wonderful way our universe holds itself together. We've floated through scenarios of weightless mornings and drifting planets, explored how our bodies and our Earth would adapt to life without gravity's embrace, and watched entire galaxies gently dissolve into cosmic wanderers following their own patient paths through space. Along the way, we've come to understand that gravity isn't just a force that keeps our feet on the ground. It's the gentle architect of everything we know and love. It creates the conditions for stars to shine, planets to form, oceans to stay in their basins, and life to flourish in countless beautiful ways. We've seen how gravity works in perfect harmony with the other fundamental forces, creating a cosmic symphony that makes complexity, beauty, and consciousness possible. Perhaps most importantly, we've discovered that gravity's constancy is one of the universe's greatest gifts to us. While we can imagine worlds where gravity behaves differently, we can rest peacefully knowing that our actual gravity will be there tomorrow morning, quietly supporting us as it always has. As you settle into sleep tonight, feel gravity's gentle embrace holding you close to this beautiful Earth, connecting you to the cosmic dance that has been going on for billions of years and will continue long into the future. Sweet dreams, dear cosmic travelers, and thank you for joining me on this weightless journey through the wonder of our perfectly balanced universe.